You're listening to the Pedal Pumping Podcast, the podcast that explores and celebrates all things pedal pumping. I'm your host, Mimi Footnip, and I'm a pedal pumping content creator and foot model. Check out my website, mimifootnip.com, for more about me. And if you'd like to contact me regarding the podcast, you can email me at mimifootnip@gmail.com. I want to thank today's patrons who I'm sighing because they are shrinking in number. Tevin Riker, Not a Golfer, Rayshawn, Eric J, Cranking Fan, Rocket Man, Havaianas Fan, Austin, Mark and Miss Jess, Joe, DL, and Classic Gas Pedals. Thank you guys so much for sticking in there with me. I'm starting to wonder as I look at the attrition of patrons to the podcast in conjunction with the fact that Spotify has demonetized the podcast. I'm wondering if you want me to continue doing this, because it's hard to feel motivated when the support is kind of falling out from underneath me. So let me know if you want to become a patron and support the podcast. You can go to patreon.com/pedalpumpingpodcast and subscribe. So I'm just going to kind of brainstorm, and maybe if you guys can give me your feedback, preferably by email, mimifootnip@gmail.com. That's the best way to communicate with me. I know that some people try to reach out on my social medias or different things, and I just don't always see all of that. Frankly, I just kind of avoid DMs. So email is the best and most direct way to reach me. My question for you, dear listener, is what would motivate you to become a patron of the podcast? Maybe would it be helpful to have like a lower tier, like maybe a $5 tier, a $3 tier? Would that motivate you to want to support it? And that's a monthly donation. Or like, would it be worth subscribing to if there's more perks? Like, you want me to do more? I mean, I feel like I do more. I assign myself more and more work every day. I don't know how much more I can do, but I guess I'm just trying. The podcast is really near and dear to my heart, and I want to keep it going. But I also want to make good use of my time. It needs to make sense, financially for me, but I want to do it. It's a labor of love, but it also, I think there's, beyond the financial support, there's something symbolic about someone willing to part with a couple bucks a month. And maybe, I don't know, I'm wondering, would that be something you would want to do? Those of you who are not currently supporting the podcast, if I created a lower tier, a $5 tier, would you want to do that? I don't know. Or would you want to maybe have like a group chat where we can like text each other and stay in touch, more kind of directly? Or what kind of perks would you like to have on the Pedal Pumping Podcast Patreon? Like, what if I posted a video? I know some of you already subscribe to my OnlyFans. I could pull off some videos from OnlyFans and put them on like Patreon for the podcast subscribers. You guys, I don't know, really. I feel discouraged. Spotify sucks, and people have different reasons for quitting their Patreon subscription, and that's okay. I'm not really like pointing fingers at any individuals or anything like that. I guess I'm just wondering, to the listenership at large, what would motivate you to want to contribute financially to the podcast? Or are there other ways to contribute to the podcast? It used to be just listening and liking and favoriting and downloading the podcast was great. That helped. But there's no monetization. There's no advertisers. Does anyone have like a small business that they want me to advertise? Probably not, because the listenership of the podcast is quite small. There's maybe like 100 to 150 listeners. I mean, I'd love to grow the audience, you know? Anyway, this is a lot of behind the scenes crap that you guys probably don't want to think about. It's not super hot and sexy. I know it doesn't make me horny, okay? But I'm just trying to figure it out because I want to keep going and I don't want to feel shitty every week when I record this podcast and the list of names gets smaller and smaller. And I don't know, it's also kind of embarrassing. Like, have I failed? Have I failed you all? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But let's get on with the podcast. And thank you to those of you who have remained loyal, faithful podcast subscribers, and some of you since the very, very, very beginning. Thank you. You really, really are the reason that this is still going. Really, truly. There's, I appreciate it so very much. Okay, so let's get on to the emails this week. This one is from Classic Gas Pedals. He's a new subscriber. Thank you. And he says, hello, just wanted to send a quick note as I've been binge listening your podcast and decided to take an initial membership on OnlyFans and Patreon. I hope we can communicate more over time. I've been listening to your evolution over time on the podcast. I was originally skeptical since you originally had no idea about pedal pumping, carburetors, etc. I'm a former content creator as well. Since I wanted to create content that I enjoyed to help offset that cost, I would sell videos. Hope to catch up soon. Let me know. So cool. Thank you, Classic Gas Pedals. It's so cringy when you say you've been binge watching me from the start because you're right. There has been a huge evolution for me. I think that I sometimes bite off more than I can chew. Like, I'm going to start a podcast. And then I go do it, and then I'm in way over my head. But the good thing about doing that is that it gave me so many opportunities to be educated by the community. And through all your emails and listening and reading and sharing, and a lot of like private conversations that I've had with many of you, like on Sex Panther, or custom videos that you've had me do, that, have certain scenarios and dialogues and different things, elements to them. I have learned a lot and I'm still learning. I feel like pedal pumping is such a broad category. And yeah, there's always more to explore, which I love, actually. I think it's kind of why I chose psychology as my major in college, because I wanted something I wanted to study something that had more to explore, meaning that when I finished my degree, I wouldn't really know everything, like, because the field itself is constantly evolving, right? So I mean, there's a lot of other reasons why I chose psychology. That's not the only thing, but that's like something that is attractive to me, is this sense of vastness. Like, oh, there's just so much to explore. Like learning a foreign language, like you're never going to learn every word, right? I mean, so there's just like an endless opportunity for more and more and more and more and more. I want more pedal pumping in my life every day. So I feel like cringy thinking about those early episodes, but at the same time, they're honest. And yeah, I'm not trying to position myself as an expert in the community, because I'm not, but I am a big old mouthpiece. I got a big old mouth. And I like hearing from you guys, and I love reading your emails. So thank you. And Classic Gas Pedals, I know that I have another email from you in the queue that I'll be reading. So listen for that in the future. And thanks for supporting me both on OnlyFans and on Patreon. Super, super appreciate it. And as a content creator, if you have any tips, like production wise, that you want to give me, I'm totally open. I'm always feeling like I want to up my game as far as like leveling up my production and creating better content. That's always something I'm striving for, like better editing, better video quality, better sound. I don't know, everything. I just want more and better and bigger and more. And so, and now actually I have a carbureted Jeep. So I know a lot more about carburetors at this point since I currently own a carbureted vehicle. I think it's my very first one because my very first car, my 1979 Volkswagen Rabbit, was fuel injected. So this is my very first carbureted vehicle, my 1962 Jeep. All right, so got another email. This one is from SP. He says, got a short story for you, starring you. Hope you and the listeners enjoy. Thank you. I like reading stories about me, starring me. It's fun. All right. Mimi is driving down the coastline, having just left a party. The night was a bit of a disappointment, though, as she didn't meet anyone that struck her fancy. It wasn't that she didn't look good, wearing a black nylon skirt with matching black round-toe heels and a powder blue blouse. She was looking hot, if she did say so herself. Now, she had a bit of a drive home. It was well past midnight, and Mimi was a bit exhausted. If it weren't for the cool night air passing through the Jeep as she drove, she might fall asleep. So tired, at times it was hard for her to push the clutch to change gears. Other times she felt her foot pressing hard on the gas pedal, causing the Jeep to go faster than she intended. It was a beautiful night for a drive, though. The picturesque scenery of the ocean, the full moon and starry night seemed like a painting to come to life. The moon was abnormally bright on this night, to the point where Mimi could have just turned off her headlights and been able to see just fine. The road was completely empty without another car in sight. Seemed like it was going to be a nice, relaxing drive home. Out of nowhere, within warning, the Jeep started to chug. All the gauges began going haywire. Her headlights went off. Mimi pumped the gas pedal to no avail. Nothing was happening. It was like she just drove through some sort of magnetic nebula, causing the Jeep to go dead as it coasted to a stop. Mimi turned the ignition, but there was nothing. It wouldn't even crank. This is just great, Mimi said, letting out a big yawn, now stranded alone on the coastline. She took out her phone to try to call for help, but her cell service was a bit weak. Getting out of the Jeep, she walked around a bit, holding up her phone to see if she could get a better connection, which turned out to be successful. She called the 24-hour tow company, giving her location the best she can. They reassured her they would be there as fast as they could. Mimi got back in the Jeep to wait, getting more and more tired as the minutes passed. Head back against the seat, she looked at the full moon, feeling her eyes growing heavier and heavier until the moon disappeared behind her eyelids, and she fell asleep. Couldn't have been 30 seconds she was out when she heard a strange voice. "Do you need help?" the voice asked, startling Mimi awake to see a shadowy figure standing next to her. She thought she should be nervous or scared, but she wasn't. "Yeah, my Jeep died on me. I have a tow truck coming," explained Mimi. "Mind if I take a look?" asked the mysterious figure, whose face was blacked out by the shadows. The only physical feature she could make out was his deep, soothing voice, which sounded like a mixture of Barry White and Morgan Freeman. "Sure," Mimi replied, trying to understand why she feels so comfortable in this situation. "Okay, you just sit there and relax, and I will take a look," said the mysterious figure, putting his hand on Mimi's shoulder in a friendly and comforting gesture. Mimi thought she should be freaking out from his uninvited touch, yet it was the exact opposite. His contact relaxed her even more, as if she were under a spell. The mysterious figure popped the hood to have a look around. "Give it a try," he said. Mimi turned the key, getting the same result as last time. The hood was slammed shut. The mysterious figure walked over to the passenger side, still hidden in the shadows. "Looks like all your electricals were fried," he said. "So what does that mean?" Mimi asked. "Is the Jeep now unrepairable?" Not necessarily. Enough positive energy could shock it back to life, the mysterious figure said. And how am I supposed to do that? Mimi asked. You can't by yourself, but I can help you, he said. How? Mimi asked. The mysterious figure got in the passenger seat, still blanketed by the shadows. Mimi wasn't sure what was going on, but for some reason felt safe as he placed his hand on her thigh, sending a chill down her spine. Again, his touch enchanted her. Goosebumps appeared all over her leg as he caressed her upper thigh. Next, she felt a pair of soft lips gently kissing her neck, using his tongue to massage the skin. Mimi was biting her bottom lip, getting more and more aroused, completely a prisoner of the moment. The hand on her thigh slowly moved up underneath her skirt to her pantyless vagina. Mimi could feel her loins quivering in anticipation. Just as the tips of his fingers began entry, he whispered softly in her ear, "Pump that pedal." Mimi could not resist that voice, was a slave to his every command. She began pumping the gas pedal, feeling those masculine fingers massaging her insides. Mimi was breathing heavy. Her pedal pumping was becoming a barometer. The more turned on she felt, the faster the pumps. His fingers deep inside her, still kissing her neck. Can feel Mimi squirming in her seat, moaning while still pumping the gas pedal. His lips moved to her lips, making out like their plane was going down. Mimi couldn't remember when she kissed a guy so hard as his free hand squeezed one of her breasts through her blouse, all while she kept pumping that gas pedal. Retreating back to kissing her neck, Mimi's squirming became more intense as climax was evident. She began pumping the clutch pedal also as she screamed, "Don't stop! Don't stop!" Just as Mimi's violently gyrating body fell victim to the volcanic orgasm, she squirted all over her dashboard. She awakened still seated in the driver's seat to the bright lights of the tow truck hooking up her Jeep. It was all a dream, Mimi confessed to herself, having a private laugh. However, getting a glimpse of herself in the rearview mirror, she noticed the hickey on her neck. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming around for another week of pedal pumping goodness on the Pedal Pumping Podcast. Thank you. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening for all these years. And let's meet back here again next week, same time, same place, for another episode. Send me your emails, mimifootnip@gmail.com, and have a great weekend. Enjoy some pedal pumping. You deserve it.